Voting in America has always been messy. Many saw it as first it was basically a VIP club for white property owning men, right? And since then, every generation has fought over the ballot box: who gets in, who gets shut out, right? Like, who decides? But here's the genius: the Constitution isn't frozen. It can be amended. And across 2 centuries, ordinary citizens fought like hell to make sure that the promise of we the people meant something bigger. That fight gave us 3 amendments that tore down the barriers around the ballot box: the 17th, 24th, and the 26th, each one born in the fire, and each one reshaping the republic. Welcome to our republic.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political band,
sailors and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not one small step for man.
Those 3 hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be.
we pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
The right of the citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any other state on account of sex. It's the 19th Amendment from 1920. The fight for women's suffrage began almost immediately as the nation was born. Leaders like Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Stanton, and Sojourner Truth pushed in the 19th century, but they hit wall after wall. By the early 1900s, Western states like Wyoming and Colorado had already given women the vote, but national government lagged. The tipping point came in World War I. With men overseas, women ran factories, farms, hospitals, and offices, but they were kept out of the voting booth, even though they were keeping the country alive. By 1920, the pressure was unstoppable. After one of the closest ratification fights in history, including a single deciding vote in Tennessee cast by a young legislator influenced by a note from his mother, the 19th Amendment became law. And for the first time in history, half of the population had a legal right to vote. The right of citizens of the United States to vote in any primary or any other election for president or vice president, for electors of the president or vice president, or for senators or representatives in Congress shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state for reason of failure to pay any poll tax or any other tax. This is the 24th Amendment from 1964. This ended poll tax. Even after the 15th Amendment was made, giving African Americans the right to vote, Jim Crow states kept finding new ways to block the poor minority voters. One of the most effective tools was a poll tax, charging citizens money to cast a ballot, right? It hit hardest against Black Americans and poor whites in the South. The 24th Amendment struck that down for federal elections. No more buying your way into democracy. 2 years later, in Harper versus the Virginia Board of Elections, the Supreme Court extended that principle to state elections, wiping poll taxes off the board completely. The right of the citizens of the United States who are 18 years of age or older to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of age. The spark was the Vietnam War. Young Americans were being drafted at 18 years old enough to fight, bleed, and die for their country, but not old enough to vote until they're 21. This is where I also think that individuals who are serving our country should be allowed to drink as well at 18. That's my opinion. I served in the military from 17 on, and I think that you should be allowed to drink if you are in the military. If you can fight, bleed, and die for your country, yeah, you should be able to have a couple drinks. The slogan for this amendment, right, for the 26th Amendment, practically wrote itself. Old enough to fight, old enough to vote, right? Congress initially tried to lower the voting age by law, but the Supreme Court ruled that only an amendment could make it binding on the states. The result, one of the fastest ratifications in U.S. history. The 26th Amendment raced through Congress and the states in 1971, officially lowering the national age to 18. It instantly added millions of new voters to the rolls. the youngest wave of enfranchisement in American history. The 19th, the 24th, and the 26th. 3 amendments that tore down walls around the ballot box and forced Americans to live up to its own promise. Each one was born in conflict, and each one came only after years, sometimes decades of struggle. Together, they remind us that the Constitution isn't a finished story, it's a framework. And every generation has had to fight over who gets included in We the People. I really appreciate you taking time to listen. Remember, history isn't boring, especially when one of these amendments ripped down another barrier, proved that we the people has always been bigger today than it was yesterday. See you next time.